Season 16 has been quite the season so far in Apex Legends. How are you guys feeling after a couple weeks? Are you guys enjoying all of these new changes, or are you guys a little disappointed by all of it? Personally, I have a lot to say about this season, so we'll get into that at the end of the video if you're interested. But before I get into that, I wanted to give you guys 10 quick tips for ranked in Apex Legends Season 16. Without further ado, let's get it. Bam 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 bam. Welcome back, everybody. As you guys all know, they made a lot of changes for Apex Legends Season 16 regarding primarily the weapons and legends. They failed to make any changes to rank, so that's a little saddening. In fact, by the end of this season, we'll have been playing at this rank system for almost an entire year now. And I know I can speak for many that this rank system sucks. Regardless, we don't make excuses out here as to why our improvement is being inhibited. We address problems when we find solutions out here. And that's what I hope this video can do for you. Tip number 1, start experimenting with new legends. There are a lot of different legends that have a lot of utility and viability now. So stop crutching scan legends. Diversify your legend composition a little bit. Characters like Crypto, Loba, Maggie, Mirage are legends that haven't really been picked in the last couple seasons, but are starting to get played more and more now because of their new abilities. The 3 most notable legends that are being played more now than ever would be Wraith, Pathfinder, and Loba. Oops, I forgot to mention Catalyst. Catalyst is being played a lot right now too. And I find these legends to be the strongest picks for this new season. So maybe try one of those 4 legends out. I promise you, they are strong. Tip number 2, consistent RP gain. How should you go about this? Things to look for, etc. The best advice that I can give you guys to gain consistent RP is to not try to win every game. It's impractical and not even the best of the best players can do it. And I know that people that try to play for first place every game do so in a passive manner. They try to avoid fights as often as possible. They hide in places that make them feel safe, like high ground, and sit there the entire game with triple snipers. You guys know who I'm talking about. Sometimes they may even win the game by doing this, but unfortunately in this rank system, you need to be taking fights and getting kills. Placement should not be your priority. Now, if we went back to a system like in Season 13, then I can't blame players for playing like that because that system prioritized placement over everything. But for the last several seasons, placement is not as important as kills. Now, this doesn't mean you need to be dropping 20 plus squad kills every game. Stop running away from fights, especially early on in the game. I would rather you guys get some kills by either fighting a team off rip or third partying a few teams in the early to middle game, shooting for a top 5 placement with kills as opposed to a top 1 placement without any kills. Now, of course, you want to win every game that you can, but I'm denouncing the playstyle that's often associated with players that sit there and try to win every game by avoiding fights, ratting, and hiding from their competition the entire game to make that top 1 placement. You need to be taking more fights this season. Tip number 3, firing range. Firing range now actually has a lot of usefulness. So if you find yourself struggling with your aim a little bit, I recommend that you sit in the range for a couple hours a day or whenever it is that you play and start using these new dummy settings, which does a really good job at simulating real enemy movement. The firing range also shows you how accurate you are with your shots, and with this setting, you can now see exactly where your bullets are being placed. This helps you become more aware of how you're shooting and where you're shooting. It helps visualize the recoil pattern of every weapon for you. And of course, for an even better warm-up, instead of the firing range, you now have TDM at your disposal. This is a great way to warm up because it doesn't have a lot of downtime. You're constantly busting your gunny. Personally, that's how I like to warm up now. Tip number 4, weapon setup. As you guys know, there have been many changes to a lot of different weapons this new season. I will not go into each one specifically, but the basic rule of thumb for your weapon setup every game should be a medium to long range and a close range weapon. Some examples out there would be a Nemesis in a car, a flatline in a Prowler, or a R301 and a R99. You can also use things like a R301 and a PK, a Wingman for long range, and a car SMG for close range. Whatever your preference is for those medium to long range weapons and for close range weapons as well. What I wanted to quickly talk about is the new weapon, the Nemesis. The Nemesis is very strong when it's fully charged up. The first magazine of that weapon before it's charged up is very weak, especially if you don't have a magazine equipped on it. This is why I've been preferring the R301 still, even after all of its nerfs, and the flatline above the Nemesis. So personally, with the setup that I've been using this season is the R301 and R99 or a flatline and the R99. And if you haven't noticed already, the R99 is by far the best SMG in the game right now. If you haven't been using it, then start picking it up. It is great, especially for ranked. Most fights are determined in close range. Tip number 5 has to do with ranked map rotations. For the first time ever, we now have daily map rotations for ranked, and if you haven't played yet or you just live under a rock, or maybe you're new to the game, the maps in play are World's Edge, Storm Point, and Broken Moon. So my tip that I can give you guys for this would be to figure out what map that you and your team play best on and allocate most of your rank time for that specific day. A lot of pro players and rank grinders are purposely avoiding Broken Moon days right now. So that would be another piece of advice for you guys. Avoid Broken Moon ranked at all costs. All maps play on the same rank system and they're all kind of played similarly. It's going to be aggressive, fast-paced gameplay on all 3 maps. But with Broken Moon specifically, it's like Stormpoint and World's Edge on crack. Any fight that you take on Broken Moon will get third-partied, and oftentimes several teams will show up at the same time. In my 4 years of playing Apex, with all the mini systems that we've had, Broken Moon ranked in Season 16 is the worst experience ever. So if you find yourself struggling to gain RP on Broken Moon, let's say, then focus most of your time on World's Edge and Stormpoint, and simply just avoid any map that you struggle to gain RP on. Tip number 6. Hot dropping. You diamond players love dropping with 7 other teams at the same POI, and then you wonder why you're not gaining RP. Stop dropping at a POI where 5+ teams are landing at. This is not a public match, this is ranked. And I know for certain that it's primarily lower ranked players that are doing exactly this, because the top predator that's taking minus 150s for entry fees every game is not going to risk landing at the same POI as 5 other teams. But for diamond or lower players, your entry cost is no higher than 70 RP. So I understand that you don't have that much to lose, which is why you're probably doing it. Don't be an idiot. Let other people be idiots. You guys watch me and listen to my tips, which means you're not an idiot. So please stop doing that and throwing away your RP. Tip number 7, how to execute a play. I'm especially talking about those stupid plays that you guys often make. These plays that you guys come up with need to be executed and performed by all 3 of your teammates. That is how you make a dumb play less dumb. You should always make sure that all 3 of your teammates are on the same page before you make a decision. Somebody on your team communicates for you to do something, whether it's a dumb move or not, and you don't do it, you are now at fault. If your teammate makes a decision by himself and doesn't let his teammates know and he goes down, then it's his fault. But if somebody on your team is communicating for you to do something, then you should do it if possible. I talk about this a lot because this is especially true for lower ranked players. Somebody on your team may communicate that something needs to be done, so that person starts initiating that play thinking their teammates are along with them, and they're looting the entire time or something. Start playing more together as a team, whether you're solo queuing or not, and execute plays together as a 3-stack, and you'll soon find out that true strength resides in numbers. Tip number 8, support legends. You should always have at least one support legend on your team. The best legend by far, of course, is going to be Loba because of her ability to teleport in escape situations to go craft banners at that point. But maybe you're better with Lifeline, Castle, or Gibby. Regardless, you need to have at least one of those legends on your team at all times. The support class and their ability to craft banners and revive their teammates even after the banners have expired is monumental in saving your RP and gaining consistent RP placement. You never have to force a 2v3 or 1v3 to grab banners anymore. If a fight goes bad, simply remove yourself from that situation and go craft your teammates' banners back. Tip number 9, places to avoid on all 3 maps. Starting with Stormpoint, you should always definitely avoid Jurassic Park. That's what I like to call the Prowler enclosure. Not only are the Prowlers super annoying, but that's damn near in the middle of the map and everybody will rotate through there. It's just not a good place to be. On Broken Moon, of course, you should be avoiding Promenade. That is smack dab in the center of Broken Moon, and it's usually a place that all teams end up having to rotate through in order to get to the other side of the map. Now on World's Edge, you really want to be avoiding those tunnels. If you have to rotate through them quickly. There will be many times where a team will be fighting in there, and of course you want to go third party that because it's an easy hold from one side, and next thing you know, there's another team coming right behind you, and now you're pinched and you have nowhere to go. This has happened countless of times to me. All of these places I've mentioned are susceptible to third parties, and there aren't a lot of escape routes. So with my experiences on this map, I avoid them at all costs. Tip number 10 has to do with hip firing and crouch spamming. Short and simple, stop crouch spamming. It's okay to do it in moderation, but to all of you guys out there that are excessively crouch spamming, stop it. Get some help. And especially with these hip fire changes for SMGs and ARs, crouch spamming will now actually worsen the spread of it and cause far more inconsistent hip fire sprays. Better to keep yourself flat-footed on the ground while strafing, of course. Just try to minimize the amount that you're crouch spamming. And of course with hip firing, especially with ARs, you're going to have to stop relying on hip firing with ARs close range. Because of the AR hip fire nerfs in Season 16, hip fire is very inaccurate. It is horribly inaccurate now. So make sure that in every close quarter engagement that you're in, you're leading in with your SMG or your shotgun or whatever, and only using your AR hip fire for close range if necessary. That's all the tips that I have for you guys for Season 16. Of course, if you learned something, then please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time for more tips. Bam 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 bam. Bam 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 bam. Bam 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 bam. Bam 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 bam.